Hello everyone, welcome back for another video tutorial. This set is going to be a continuation from part number 1. For this part, we will explore the part that we can use for creating the new card with dynamic data rows. So for example, if I click on the link new card, it's going to show me first getting all the products ID, product name from the server. And also whenever I select or change the name of this, it also show the update version of the price information for this product. And users should be able to add the quantity of these products into the cart. So for example, now we have product 2, the price, and this also give us the total. At the end of display, it also show the total update for our cart item. So for now, if you add another item here for 4, and when we click on add button, it's going to update the cart with the second item here and also update the total information. So your user would allow to remove each item that is no longer needed, and the system will also update the total again whenever there is any changes in the data. So now let's take a look at the composition of this. The first thing I would like to show is whenever, okay, let's go back to our cart one more time. When you go to the cart, it shows a link. This link is basically look at cart/create. So what is this for is that whenever you inspect this link, it's actually a tag link with the left edge left going to this controller slash the action of this. Now if you look at the cart controller, okay, there is a function called create. So this function, what it does is return the view of the create.cshtml. So in your view, you would have a, okay, so the create.cshtml like this. Now let's explore this part together. So whenever this page is loaded up, what happened? So in the code, as you can see, we have a section script here. Okay, additional to the HTML itself, we have a section start with add sections followed by script. And inside this section, we put open and close braces here. Inside of this also, we need to have a script tag. Now in here, we also make use of JQuery so that we can register for the events whenever the document is fully loaded. We want to call CB functions. Now what the CB function does is that if you look at the contents of CB, it's basically register for whenever there is any changes. Okay, in this combo box here, it's going to call CB change. Okay, we talk about that later. Now let's take a look at this. Now look at the highlight. So also we register for 3 other clicks events. One for whenever user click plus, the other one is for when user click minus, and the last one is when user click on add. And there are 3 different functions that will be serviced these click events. Okay, so we also have another function here that serve for whenever user click on confirm to send this model data to the server. Okay, now let's take a look at the first thing. Whenever we already register for these events, we also want the system to send this HTTP GET request to the server. Now look at this. They actually trying to locate the controller products and the function product with S. So this request will get to the following controller, which is product controller here. Inside the function product, okay, let's take a look at this. So we should have a function product here. Okay, here we go. So these functions, okay, work with the context product with S, list all the objects in the table, and then return this as the JSON. So what does that mean? That means whenever you make request to this controller, to these actions, okay, this controller will return JSONs of your query result, and this query result will be, okay, used as the input for this function. So if you go to this function here, product data alive, if you move to product data alive here, this is another functions. So what it does is this function also get the jQuery result. The JSON result, okay, as the list of rows. So in this case, you can use the for each, or you can use the for loop, or you can use the jQuery for loop here. So in my case, I use $.each, okay, pass the data as the input. The callback function here, okay, will be called every time they loop to the objects inside this data list. So each time when they perform the loop, we got the key and the item. Now the item is the objects that get query along with the looping for this. And what we do is we say, hey, CMD product name here. This one is also binded with this combo box. Okay, if you go to CMD product name, it's actually registered to connect. Okay, CMD products. Yeah, CMD product name variable here is connected to this tag with these IDs, and it's over here, okay, with the select, which is the combo box here. So that means this function here is going to loop to the list that is coming from the server, and then add this dynamic tag here. The tag will be decorated with this item information, product IDs, okay, and then they will put this into this combo box. And at the end of the loop, we also update that we would like to show the price and quantity for the first products item here. So in this case, we have two of this, but we want to show the price for P1. So we can do this by line numbers 161, because we know that this one, okay, if you inspect this one, it's actually have the ID equal to txt price. So over here we say, hey, txt price, could you please set yourself equal to the value of the first element of the list. We know that the first element of the list is P1 objects, the second element is P2 here, and we want to access to product price informations. Also over here, if you inspect on this tag here, the ID of this tag is txtqty. So this way we just want to set the default qty for this to be equal to 1. All right, so this process is complete. So we just first, okay, look at the CB function here that will be called when when the document is fully loaded. We connect all the variables and events to the click functions. We also get the data from the server and populate the data that is coming back into this combo box. Okay, now what is next? When user select any product here, change the value of this. Oh, sorry, this is supposed to be fixed because this is the price. The quantity is equal to 2. When user click plus, what happened? So you can right click and inspect it. So this button have the ID equal to cmd underscore inc, and this object is registered with this variable. So cmd underscore inc will be, represented by this tag. Now we also register that, hey, could you please add the click events, and whenever user click on it, it's going to call cb int click. And now let's take a look at what is inside cb int click. It is available right here. So what it does is it actually get the data from txt quantity, which is this guy, and then convert it into the integer, because the data that we get from the text box is in the string format. We need to convert it into integer, okay, using this function. Now we increase this function, this value that we get. For example, the first time it is equal to 2. When you click add, it's going to show number 3. because whenever they already have the value of 2 here, it's increased the value of 2 by 1. And once they get the value, they convert it back into the text and let the txt quantity set up its value equal to the new value, which is now incremented by 1. Same thing go for minus. So if you inspect on this one, the ID is CMD dex, and the function that registered for this click is this function. That's the same thing except that it's the revert. So it's going to also reduce the value of reduce the number of value by 1. And whenever the value reach 0, we don't want to see the situation that the quantity is 0 and user add it as a 0 item. So we say whenever this condition is met, then we will default the value equal to 1. And we convert this value back into the text so that this data can be set to this text box. Okay, so that's the mechanic for plus and minus. Now let's come to the add part. So if you click on add, inspect it, you can see that this add button is having the ID equal to CMD add. And for CMD add, it is registered, okay, with CB add click. So this function is available right, let me minimize this, right here. Okay, so if you take a look at the contents inside here, what it does is first, there are 3 things. So whenever you want to add the products into the cart, basically you are taking the name of the products, the price, and the QTY. Now with those 3 information, then we can create the new rows that is available for this table. So in this case, I take product ID from this one, okay, and then I take the data from the price, txt price.value, convert it into double type format, and I name it price. The last piece of information is the quantity, which is coming from txt qty.vol, and then we convert it into integer, so we got qty. Now what else? Well, the data that we have from here is basically the product's ID, but we want to show the product name right here. I don't want to show the product's ID. So what should I do? So in this case, we know that the list is available. Okay, the list is coming from whenever you get data alive here. Data alive, you can see that the query result is now assigned to the list whenever product data alive is called. So that means list is available as the global variable in this page, in this web page, so that we can have access to this list anywhere that we like. Now over here, we access to this list, okay, within the function of this. We say that, okay, within the query result, we know that it's going to be the list of objects that contain information about the name, the price, the QTY, and so on. So we use the this syntax here to say, hey, list, could you please find? And we use arrow notation here. So on the left-hand side of this is basically each time when they perform the loop, looking things inside the list, it gives us the objects as A. Okay. On the right-hand side of the arrow function is basically the condition that if this condition is met, it's going to copy that object A into this list, into these things on the left-hand side of the equal signs. So in this case, we know that we have the unique ID. So we never will find ourselves in a situation that file list will contain more than one object. Okay. So in this case, we just check if the A.product ID is equal to this guy. If that's the case, the A objects will be copied into this list. So in this case, it's basically the objects that are coming from the list. All right. So once we have the objects that coming from the list, then you can find the information from your data model. So in this case, if in the products, So you can have information about product ID, product name, product QTY, and product price from this. Okay, now we are pulling product names from it. So in this case, so I create the new object called row that is going to be populated right here. So the first column data will be, okay, the value of this will be equal to the product ID itself. The name, as you can see, is coming from the objects that we found, and we want to reference to the product name. The price as well. Now, even though you can say this equal to file.price, but because we can get the price information from the above already for QTY as well, so we don't need to actually look at it. So in this case, we have price, we have QTY, and the total is basically this data and this data, multiply them together. Okay, multiply these together to give the total. Now, once we got this row objects, what we do is that we have another variable called cart. The cart is global variable. I put it at the beginning equal to empty list. Okay, so whenever people start adding things, it's going to add the objects into this cart. Okay, so in this way, the cart will hold the list of objects, the objects that what we call cart item. Now, every time you make changes to the data into the cart, we want to update the data table here, the table that we have here. So let's take a look at this. So whenever I say 10 to and say add, okay, you can see that now it adds the new rows right here by calling update table. Now let's take a look at what is inside update table. Update table is right here. So what it does, it's actually, if there are many things already there, like many rows that has been added, okay, when you add it again, what happened? It's going to duplicate the things that are exist in here. So we better clear, so remove everything in terms of the data except the header row. The header row should be remain unchanged. Now to do this, well, we actually can do this line number 144. 144 means it's going to, keep this row as is. See, that's the code, and remove everything, including this as well. Okay, now this is the representation part. It's not actually remove things in the card objects. It just remove everything in the table tag so that they can do the looping again in the card. If you did not remove this on line number 144 and then you add P2 right here, it's going to be P1, another P1, and then P2. This is not what we want, right? So that's why we first clear out all the data rows, not including this. Okay, we cleared off first using this command, and then we loop to the objects in the cart again. So inside the cart, when we perform the loop, we want to create the new row that look like this. Okay, so it's basically, we can use dynamic tag with the help of tr functions, td, so you can combine these together. Now the technique is I have already provided tr tags that return this thing, the td that return this tag. So therefore the technique is take the data, return the tag with the data in between. Okay, now with this function called tr, it's going to create the new tr tag. Inside the tag is create multiple columns. So for each column, then it takes the data for the cart name, the cart quantity, the cart price, and total. Okay, and I think the last one is going to be the button. Okay, the button. I also have another button that also so that you can have a button to remove it as well. Okay, button function is available in the code. I can show you later. Now once we have the row, what else? The TBL table 1 is connected. I think TBL table 1 is connected to TBL table 1. Yeah. Okay, let me search for this. Okay, so it's going to list my, yeah, it's right here. It's connected to this tag, table 1. Now if you look at this, and you inspect this table, the table ID is table 1 as you can see, and inside your code, this table 1 can be referenced using tbl underscore table 1. So for this table 1 here, we append the new row. The row data is coming from this dynamic tag creations. Okay, and then once we got the table here, we got the row append in there. We also want to find out the total information as well. Total will be used for this data. Okay, so it's going to update the total from this object, all the object. Okay, let me add one more thing so you can see the difference. Add it. So now you can see that we have two objects, okay, in the table, in the cart. Now, in terms of inside the cart, each time it's going to, now it's clear off, okay, when we update table, it's clear off all the data. And then again, go again with the cart loop, create the new rows. The first row will be for this P1, the second row for P2, but each time when they perform the loop, they update the total. The total is coming from this information, data for this information, data for this information, multiply them together to give the total. So that means at the end of the for loop, we have another tag creation here. So we create another rows that have total. As you can see, the first column is the word total. The second and the third column is nothing. So it looks like this. And then the last column is going to be the actual value of the total from this command. And once we got these summary rows, we say, hey, table 1, could you please add it into yourself? Okay, so that is why you can see that now it shows the update of everything's in the cart. Now you can, to practice yourself, you can have another button to clear off all the data in the cart and call the functions update table. You can try that as well. Now another mechanics. Whenever user click on remove button, so let's go to inspect of this. So as you can see, the button has the on-click events that we'll call CB remove click and then pass the value of this. Whenever we create a button here, so we pass what? We pass the cart ID as the first parameter. We pass the word remove to this function. Now let's go explore the function button. Okay, the button should be provided somewhere right here. Okay, so this is the function button. So it's actually take two things: the ID of the button and the word, which is all the same, which is the word remove, and it returns the text of button and connect on click events with this callback function. But notice this carefully. I also pass the keyword this into this function, and I also pass the attributes name data dash ID, and then I pass this ID, okay, from this function. The ID of this is passed as the equal to the value for this attribute. Okay, so whenever user click on this remove button, this function will get called. Now let's take a look at this function when it gets called. We also have this. Okay, so CB remove click is available, right? CB click, CB remove click, CB add cart done. Okay, I think we better search for it. It might be quicker. So let's search for this function. Okay, so this function is available here. The word this will be passed as the word objects when this function gets called. And you can see that now the first thing that I do is whenever this function gets called, I'm looking for $signs and this object to turn this into dynamic JQuery tag. And then I can use dot attributes to get the attribute data underscore data dash ID, because I know that each time when I create a new button here, As you can see, I also pass, this is how we pass the ID along with when we create the new button. But I cannot simply, connect this to anything, so I create a new attribute called data-id, and then I pass this ID along as the value. This value can be retrieved or can be obtained from this calling. See, this is the name of the attribute. So you got the product's ID. And what I do is, because we know that the objects, whenever you click add, the object will be populated or pushed into cart objects already. So what we do is we filter this out, okay? And whenever you say, hey, a.id not equal to the product ID, it's going to copy only the objects that doesn't have this ID. That means if there are two of this, the first time they loop into this. Of course, if you click remove here, the ID that passing with data ID will be equal to 1. And they're going to say, hey, we found it, but you say not equal to. That means this object will not be copied into this list. Okay? And then the second time, when they search for this again, the ID is equal to 1 from this attribute. And they say not equal to, and this condition is true, so it's going to copy that object into this cart for you. So that means this time, whenever you say filter, using this condition, it's going to filter out the object from the cart, okay? So technically, so it means it's going to remove this object from the cart variable. And now the cart will be updated. And what you need to do is call the function update table again. And what the table update table will do is it's going to loop through. First thing is remove everything here, keep the header row as is, and loop through objects in the cart and perform the same representation here. So this is the physics behind, remove button. Whenever you are satisfied with all of this, then we click confirm. So let's take a look at search Google, inspect this. So this one have the ID equal to CMD confirm. Now, if you look at our registration here, CMD confirm is connected to this variable CMD underscore confirm. And I have registered this click event for this button for this function, CB confirm click. Let's visit this function. So this function, okay, right here. So what it does is it prepare the list called result, set it as empty list, loop to all the objects in the cart, okay, and then create the list that contain objects in the cart. In this case, we do data projection. We change the information. We know that in the cart is called name, QTY, price, and total. But this time, we just want to create the object with the structured products ID, product QTYs, and product price. And those information will be used to support this data. We know that the object in this card have the value of ID, QTYs, and price. Now, whenever they loop all of this and put it into the card, into the result list already. What else? Then it actually go to post operation, HTTP post. The result variable is the list, right? That is already populated by the object from the cart. And now, in order to post this to the server, you also need to set up the name of this variable. So in this case, I call item with S. Keep in mind that this is very important. Okay, and then you can use any name, but this name should be match with the action parameter. I tell you later. And now over here, I set up the URL to be cart controller action add cart. Okay, so it's going to request the cart and look at add cart function. So in here, they will say, hey, cart controller, I want you to call function add cart, and the function add cart should be available. Add cart is right here. Okay, now this is very special. Now let's take a look at this. Whenever we make HTTP request, we have the data, we pass this data as the variable, okay, to the post as the parameter. We name this parameter as item with S, okay, and this list contain the result list. Now on the controller side, they will pick this up under the same name item. So in this case, the name item here, as you can see, should be the same. Okay, you cannot use something else. And this one is belong to the list of item. Now if you look at the item data structure, it is available here. The item data structure contains product ID, product QTYs, and product price. That is because if you look at whenever you pass this information along, you put it into the result, you can see that it has the similar structure. Product ID, product QTYs, and product price. Now over here, product ID, product QTYs, and product price. If you have something different, then you will be, it will have some other message showing that data doesn't match. Okay, so make sure that whenever you pass this data with HTTP ports, then the structure of your passing data should be the same as the things that you declare right here. So if I were you, I would, look at the structure here and then go ahead and create this data model that have the same structure as this one. Now, in this case, whenever they pick this up, they're gonna know exactly automatically that this is the list of items, because over here we have the results as the empty list, and from the loop in the cart we push object into list result. Now same thing, they are going to loop to this list, and then what they do is they create the new cart object here, okay, and also update the date time now. And whenever you add this into the cart, you can see that now we add this cart into cart with S table. After this, you update your actual physical database. Whenever you have done this, okay, the system will automatically assign the cart ID for this object, so that you can use these cart ID objects for additional things below. Because now we know that we have two tables, the table that is called cart and the cart item detail. For the cart, we did it in this step, okay? For the second step, we create another list, and then we loop to all the items from this list, and we create the new objects belong to cart item structure that conform to cart item table. Okay, you have cart item table that support this. Okay, this part can get easily, but this part is coming from whenever you save the first object from this table. Keep in mind that this table and this table are different. Okay, this table only keep whenever user when they purchase the cart, the product in the cart and the cart ID. But the cart item table keep the detail. So in this case, you can see that now this is how we update the ID for this. Okay, so this data is coming from the first operations. When you create the object here, it doesn't have ID yet until you save it into the actual database. You got the IDs and you can use the ID right here. Okay, now whenever you keep adding the rows from this for loop here, then after the looping, we just have to say, hey, inside the cart table, we want to update that, okay, cart item field equal to this list as well. Okay, you can take a look at the navigational property of that two table, because in the cart table here, we have only about cart ID and created date and another navigational property that contains the cart items. Also inside the cart item, it has cart item ID, product QTY, product price, and inward navigational property that can be linked to cart ID. Okay, and then once this is done, finished, okay, it's return URL action index. Okay, and then this guy will pick up on the client side. The client side will pick up, and then what it does is going to call add cart done function, and it's going to navigate to this new URL. This new URL is recorded right here, so that means this is how we redirect the result to this action. So let me show you here. When I click confirm, it's going to go to card index. In this case, that is the help of the redirection scheme. Okay, so this step and mechanism is quite complex. I think you're gonna have to go over this several times, and if you have any question, please let me know. Thank you for watching.